Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DEI Deathwatch, where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm your host, Scribelight, and the major question of today is, can you hear me? Because if not, then I'm talking to myself. So everybody in the chat, let me know that you can hear my words. For those of you that are not in the know, StreamYards has twice now, in two different streams on two different shows that I've done, kind of nuked the volume on everybody talking to each other in the studio and thus to the audience. It happened on the stream I did with Undoomed on Friday. It happened on the Midnight's Edge in the Morning stream we tried to start yesterday on Monday. But everybody can hear me. Yay! Yay! Yay. Not even a Colleen Bernier yay, but a yay nonetheless. Anyway, before we get into today's stories, who's joining me on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon? Mike Savage, Blarg. Miranda Stone is here. What? Miranda Stone. Guys, I don't know if you know about Miranda Stone, but let me tell you. Keeverdam is here. Thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the link to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, guys. That is pinned to the top of the chat box. If you have the opportunity, please take a look at that and donate if you are able. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link. Kiro Soldier, hello. Did you read that article I posted on Discord? I don't know. That's my... where on Discord? There's a lot of Discord. I'm assuming you mean DEI Deathwatch. No, I didn't have an opportunity to see that one yet. No. Revealed on August 15th, 2025. Oh. Okay, well, I'll, here. See if I can mix that into the... I will try to mix that into the schedule here. So let me do that. Okay. I have seen it. I have not read it, but we will get to it shortly. Thank you, Kiro Soldier. Who else is here? Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. And Spoonie the Rebel, hello. So good afternoon, everybody. Anybody that I missed? Anybody lurking? Anybody in the future? Good afternoon. We had a lot of news over the last week, if you can believe it. But there is one piece of news I want to share. I don't know if you guys may have missed it on Ranting Monkey's stream on Monday. Monday was Ranting Monkey's 9th YouTube anniversary. Yes, he has hit his 9 years, as I will hit mine on October 11th. And I made something for him, something that I've been intending to do for a while now, and I showed it off there as its premiere. But here I will show it to you. Now, if you don't know particular deep Ranting Monkey lore, you might not get the reference. But all the same, I made this for Monkey. So that is my Ranting Monkey stinger to go alongside the one for Irate Alex and Sinatra and Tail Feature. And I guess now also Miranda Stone. So there you go, guys. Anyway, let's move on to our first story, the one that headlined the thumbnail. Intel. Remember Intel? Doon, 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 doon. Intel said DEI was instrumental to innovation, but then suddenly stopped talking about it. I wonder what happened. I mean, it had to be, part and parcel of what they do. It's not a nice to have, it's a business imperative. It's part of the air that we breathe, and on and on and on. And it just suddenly faded away. It was just last year that Intel declared the principles of diversity, equity, and inclusion were the company's quote-unquote core values, essential for innovation and strong business growth. This year, Intel has almost nothing to say about DEI at all in its annual corporate responsibility report. Intel's report last year included a 16-page section on making the company, quote-unquote, inclusive. Yeah, that was their fallback term. They were trying to ditch diversity and just lean on inclusive. A lot of places have started doing that. Bridge, specifically, has leaned on that as an alternative focus for a while now. The chip maker boasted about making its offices welcoming for LGBT plus employees. I really, what does that mean exactly? Honestly, I would love to know exactly what do you put into an office to make it attractive to LGBT, they dropped the Q, plus employees. Specifically, like what is going to satisfy that entire cohort of demographics in an office? Boosting opportunities for African Americans. Oh, you mean giving preferential treatment to people on the basis of their race? And linking executive pay to hitting diversity targets. Yeah, putting a bounty on illegal quotas. It's fine. It's fine. That's all gone from the new corporate report issued earlier this summer. The words diversity, equity, or inclusion were used commonly in last year's report, but scarcely appear in Intel's newest edition. Quote, I think they were trying to please the government with what kinds of language they were going to use, unquote, said Zhu Fang, founder of the Intersectional Group, a Portland human resources consulting firm. Yes, I think they were trying to please the government. I too agree. They were trying to please the government. The government, like federal law, as represented by the Civil Rights Act of 1964, say Title VII or Title VI, because I'm pretty sure. I think I can be safe to say that Intel has some government contracts that bring them within the boundaries of Title VI as well. So I just have a feeling that, giving preferential treatment to people on the basis of their race and their employee group was probably no longer going to be okay. Let's see. We have a chart here. Intel's changing language around DEI. Okay. The number of times the word diversity was used in their 2024 report, 65. 2025, 5. The number of times equity was used in their 2024 report, 58. In 2025, 1 time. And inclusion was used 132 times in 2024. In 2025, 11. Oh my gosh. Shifts like Intel's were commonplace among America's largest companies this year, particularly, but not limited to, those that work closely with the federal government. And I can only guess why. I have no idea. It's a total mystery. Isn't it to you? The Trump administration has warned companies of possible legal or regulatory scrutiny of DEI programs. Intel, though, had much to lose from falling into disfavor with the Trump administration. Even before the federal government took a 10% stake of the company last month, a deal negotiated after Intel released its yearly report, it was banking on the administration releasing billions of dollars in subsidies to help pay for new U.S. factories. Yes. And what could have been the literal, written into the law, poison pill of losing all that federal money? Yeah, violating Title VI. That's right. I knew they could get it. In a statement this week, Intel said it, quote, remains deeply committed to fostering a culture of inclusion and belonging where every employee is respected, valued, and empowered to thrive, unquote. Okay, it sounds good. While laws and regulations are evolving, the companies... No, they're... I am so sick of this narrative. Oh, the legal landscape is changing by the minute. No, the legal landscape has been pretty much set since 1964, and certainly before the second Trump administration. It's not evolving. It's just finally people are enforcing it, or at least threatening enforcement of existing laws. Oh, the regulations are evolving. While laws and regulations are evolving, the company said, we maintain a strong focus on cultivating an inclusive, innovative workplace grounded in our core values. Oh, the core values which you're apparently abandoning? Okay. Indeed, Intel's latest corporate report still includes data on the share of women, Hispanic, and Latinx employees. Oh, is there a difference? Hispanic and Latinx employees. Okay. African Americans and other groups in the company's workforce. You mean demographics? They're not a club. Just because you share an ethnic relationship with someone does not make you part of their group. Whatever. The latest report says Intel encourages, quote, employees to bring their authentic selves to work. Oh, I'm sure they never said that before, because bringing your authentic self to work is suddenly a new thing again. That language is far less prominent and less frequent in the new report, though, and with the Trump administration's new stake in the company, you mean the American government's stake in the company? Or the taxpayer's stake in the company? I mean, presumably it's going to outlast Trump's administration, but anyway, which makes the government the company's largest shareholder. Outside observers expect Intel will further ratchet back on inclusivity goals, illegal quotas, that have been central to the way the company has portrayed itself for more than a decade. Quote, with a 10% federal stake, Intel will likely follow the federal directives, predicted Portland State University finance professor Kin Lian. Quote, under the Trump administration, Intel will downplay DEI and focus on cost control and operational discipline. Oh, so it's going to be more of a business than a virtue signaling machine. Oh, heaven forfend. Corporate shift. A new report from the Conference Board, a widely cited economic research institute, if you say so, finds that half of the companies in the S&P 100 index made significant changes to their DEI messaging and annual reports this past year. This past year? Well, that's before Trump became president again. Huh. About a third of companies stopped using the word equity, while a fifth removed DEI metrics and targets. Quote, we've definitely heard that equity was always the most ambiguous part of DEI. No, equity was never the most ambiguous part. Inclusion was maybe, I mean, it depends on how you define it. I mean, diversity was about discrimination. Equity was about equality of outcome. Inclusion, inclusion was kind of like kissing cousins to equity, because inclusion was about lowering standards so that you could justify bringing people into the place whether they belong there or not, and specifically if they looked the part. So I don't know that equity was ever the most ambiguous. But anyway, we've definitely heard that equity was always the most ambiguous part of DEI and could be quite contested, said Andrew Jones, one of the authors of the Conference Board's report. That pillar, he said, could, quote, raise questions in the eyes of some observers. What does that actually mean in practice? Okay, Conference Board. I mean, you sound like, you say you're like a think tank, a business think tank. I don't know. You've got more than 10 plus years of evidence to see what, between the rhetoric and the results and reports yearly from major corporations, what equity looks like. What they are at least either explicitly or implicitly telling you what equity is supposed to be. You should know. What does that actually mean in practice? How do you not know that? Did nobody sit down with any of these DEI consultants and say, what do you do here? Why? Every time I read one of these articles, it sounds like they're just discovering these things. Diversity advocates promoted equity, Jones said, based on the concept that some groups, demographics, don't have equal opportunities professionally because of historical disadvantages, and so creating equal outcomes requires more than just treating everyone the same. Yes, engineering equal outcomes. What does that mean to you? Taking pity on people because of what they look like, assuming that they cannot make it for themselves, and then engineering them arriving at the same positions as other people who have the practice and the skills and the experience and so on in order to pad the aesthetic. It's all about the aesthetic. Quote, equity requires sort of those special measures to offset historical disadvantages, Jones said. Okay, well, take it further, Mr. Jones. What do you think that would have to look like in practice? I mean, you have a whole contingent of people that you've decided, or the company has decided, are, by the mystic chords of melanin, part of a crime that took place generations ago that they are the victims of. Okay, so you have this group of people made up of many different demographics in your company that you've decided you need to take pity on. How do you give them the advantages that they've been denied, obviously, because of what they look like? Why is... This is not an Agatha Christie mystery. It can be difficult to know just what those special measures are, Jones said, and the concept itself became a... We just don't know. I mean, we've decided that this entire race of people are obviously disadvantaged because of their race. And so we need to put them into positions of authority that maybe they don't otherwise qualify for in order to aesthetically offset the guilt that we feel over crimes that happen to other people. What could we possibly do to take these people and put them over here into positions of authority? I just don't know. Are you kidding me? Okay, either Mr. Jones is decidedly underqualified to be in the position that he's in, Mr. Andrew Jones, or he is being just ridiculously, intentionally obstinate. Or both. Anyway, Intel has cut down on their language in their reports. There you go. They're finally having a leash pulled because now they answer to someone other than their own virtue signaling masters. We just don't know. What does equity mean? How does that look? We're the conference board. We analyze S&P 100 index companies, but we don't know what we're talking about. That's amazing. You know, the conference board, I wish the conference board had contacted me like 5 or 6 years ago. I would have given them a crash course on the whole thing. I would have said, well, hey, here's this example and here's this example. Listen to this advocate, listen to this consultant, listen to what they're actually saying, and think for yourselves for a second. If they state the problem is this, there's not enough of these kind of people in positions of authority, how would you engineer that outcome? If you're running the company, if you're running HR. I don't know. Complete mystery. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about essays. You guys like essays? I like essays. I kind of look at TEDx talks as essays, living essays. What about victimhood essays? My college shut down DEI. As a minority student, the impact is personal. Jaws the revenge. This time, it's personal. It was the second Wednesday of my fall semester at Emory University, and I had just gotten out of a seminar when I turned on my phone to check my email. One new message. The subject line was unassuming. Update on DEI offices and programs. The sender was unremarkable. The office of our interim president. But the first line of the email was a gut punch. My steps slowed in the hallway as I scanned the page. Quote, "This is a hard and important statement to make, ... unquote, the email read. It got worse from there. My school is officially shutting down its DEI programs and offices. It's difficult to describe this kind of disappointment. To many minority students, including myself, it is not an unfamiliar feeling. Many of us are taught from a young age not to expect institutions to look out for us. How many, I was taught to look out for myself, but okay. Still, it's easy to hold on to hope that there's truth behind the reassurance we were given as fresh-faced first years. Quote, there are people here to help you, unquote. I'd held on to the hope that colleges' commitments to their students would withstand the onslaught of attacks from a federal government, okay, parenthetical, attacks that countless judges say are unconstitutional, by the way. Yeah, countless activist judges that get overruled within about a week. But anyway, all my faith melted away when a single email that touts DEI programs as a, quote, statement about who we are and what we believe in, unquote, also announces the closure of those programs in the span of a couple of paragraphs. Okay. Emory University is not the first U.S. college to be faced with government-induced challenges related to DEI programs. You're right. Across the country, offices are being closed and staff are getting laid off if they aren't lucky enough to get by with a name change or some website censorship, of course. Oh, I didn't have the stinger ready. My apologies.
Of course!
Students of all sorts of backgrounds, sure, are finding their safe spaces rebranded or closed completely, their trusted advisors unceremoniously fired, and their support systems dismantled. Oh no! Again, I am reminded, it feels like I feel compelled to read this every episode now. The quote from Thomas Sowell, quote, "When people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like discrimination." Logically, I understand the arguments behind these decisions. Do you? Do you, though? Okay, regale me with your logic. I can't wait. In 2024, over $600,000 of Emory's research funding came from the federal government. I get why Emory feels the need to comply with the government. The loss of funding for not complying would be astronomical. And what by what mechanism would the government be justified in pulling that federal funding? What? I haven't read the rest of this yet. Tell me of your logic. Tell me of your Emory University research skills on this one. But recent history has shown how fickle this government is. Emory may not have the same name recognition as Harvard, which has been fighting federal funding cancellations with the full strength of Harvard law. I don't think even Harvard Law could get past Title VI. But anyway, I wish my school was putting up some kind of fight for its students, or that we do anything other than scramble away from what we claim to stand for. So you either are not aware, or again, are intentionally ignorant of the actual law that Emory has been breaking all this time, giving preferential treatment to its students, or anybody else on the basis of race in particular. Okay. When Emory's Writing Center, where I've worked for the majority of my time at Emory, had its statement to anti-racism, equity, and inclusion removed from its website. Oh, sorry, okay. That page was the culmination of years of work. No, it wasn't. You copied and pasted a bunch of stuff from like Ibram X. Kendi and, what's her name? Robin DiAngelo. The culmination of years of work. A web page was the culmination of years of work. Okay. From staff and students who work together to improve student confidence around their own language. To have it censored so suddenly and forcibly felt like more than an overt oppression of free speech. It felt like Emory was saying that it did not, in fact, remain committed to making each member of its community feel valued and respected, at least not in the same way, not publicly. Well, I mean, if the college is still continuing its racist programs without saying so, that's not an improvement. What do we do? Oh, sorry. Who do we turn to in times like these? I turn first to my friends and classmates. We rant our feelings on it. We cope with humor. We hold each other physically to support each other emotionally. Oh my God. They took away the DEI programs. I need a hug. Somebody, please. Give me physical contact. I talk to faculty members in various departments who I know to be fervent supporters of DEI programs. I talk to staff who may not work for the closing offices, but who have pointed hundreds of students in their direction over the years. And yes, I write essays like this one to assure students at campuses I've never set foot on that they are not alone, and we are all hurting together. 'Cause you are not alone. I am here with you. With no DEI, I don't know what to do. But you are not alone. More importantly, though, I make sure that my commitment to DEI remains unwavering, even if my university's doesn't. Whether as a writing center staff member or as a queer black female student, I'll find ways to support my fellow minority students and build support chains that will extend to current underclassmen and future students. Yeah, this help that I only extend to people who fall within my chosen demographics. I'm not going to discriminate against other students who don't look like me. No. But I take particular concern for those that do, because obviously, just like me, they need help. Because when our institutions fail us, it's up to us to look out for each other and make change where we can. Sincerely, Catherine Prather, Emory 26. Oh. Boo to the who. No more DEI. Oh, they're taking away our safe spaces, guys. Oh, no. Why? Why would they do this to us? There just isn't any reason. They're just doing it. They're just capitulating to Trump because our university abandoned us. It's not like they've been getting away with, violating federal law for all these years. No, it's just... Cheese. Chink likes that horse, of course. Horses... I don't know how to go. Corpse is a corpse, of course. And you can't talk to a corpse, of course, unless, of course, it is the corpse that's the famous Mr. Dead. Go right to the corpse and ask the corpse. That's horse. Anyway, I can't do it. Shaman, exactly. Frosty Glass, if Emory won't be racist, I'll just have to be extra racist. I know, you gotta make up. You gotta make up for the loss. That's right. Gotta take up the slack. What are you gonna do otherwise? Let's see. Where shall we go next? Let's go to the great state of Denver. Oh, wait. No, Denver's not a state. It's a city. Let's go to the great city of Denver. University of Denver ends DEI initiatives to protect funding, but Chancellor says school isn't kowtowing. No, you're not kowtowing. You're following federal law, probably. You're not just doing this because it's Trump. You're doing it because you're finally being held to account for what you should have been doing the whole time. As Denver University student groups push back, Chancellor Jeremy Hefner says everyone is welcome here. DEI's got nothing to do with being welcoming or not welcoming, except for, you're not welcome if you're straight, white, and male. I love how they keep, trying to reconfigure what DEI is and then accuse people who are against it of being against things that it's not even really about. Don't you want this important research to continue at this school? This research that could potentially cure cancer? You're just wanting everybody to die. Having our federal funding pulled from our research. No. Let's see. The University of Denver is doing away with practices and programs. Oh, practices and programs sounds a lot like... how do we call it over here in the wonderful world? Programs and activities? Yeah. Practices and programs. Okay. Practices and programs supporting students of color and other marginalized scholars out of fear that the school could lose federal funding under a presidential administration hostile toward diversity. No. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, by that thinking then, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was hostile towards your brand of diversity. It's true. It's absolutely true. I hate to tell you this, Denver University. The rollbacks apply to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, which often help people of color, LGBTQ students, and low-income students have equal access to educational opportunities. Well, let me stop you there. Low income residents. Okay, that's where it should just begin and end. If it's a class situation, if you're giving opportunities to students who may not be able to afford your university but have the grades to justify it, that's perfectly acceptable. But then you throw in things like someone's race, or in the most part of the alphabet soup, who they like to sleep with. These things which have absolutely nothing to do with scholarship, absolutely nothing to do with determining the content of someone's character. But you can't seem to differentiate, can you? You put race and orientation on the same level as low income. You did that. The Trump administration has railed against DEI, threatening to pull funding from institutions that have these initiatives, claiming they represent unlawful discrimination. Okay, well, could you take a moment? I know it's a crazy thing. Could you take a moment and assess the legitimacy of that concern? Just, separate yourself from your obvious Trump derangement syndrome and just look at it clinically. Do DEI programs that favor students on the basis of their race primarily, does that even come close in rhetoric or spirit to violating Title VI? Can you take yourselves away from the politics of it for a moment and just look at the established long-term federal law and say to yourself, does this pass the smell test, given what is at core of Title VI? Can you? Chancellor Jeremy Hefner told the Denver Post that inclusivity, yes, remains a core value at Denver University. Well, boy, Denver University sounds a lot like Intel. And vowed the federal government will not strong-arm the campus into shrinking from that. Well, they don't have to strong-arm you. They just have to say, hey, you accept federal funding. You've been under Title VI the whole time. Quote, I don't feel like it's kowtowing, Hefner said. Quote, we have to self-reflect and ask, can we do this differently? And by golly. Okay, this is something that a person in the 21st century is saying, guys. I'm quoting this. Can we do this differently? And by golly, I know we can, because we're a damn smart community. Could have fooled me. And passionate about a lot of things. I can agree there. And we work so hard to support our students. As long as they look the part. I just know that if we're self-critical, and realize there are other ways of supporting our values, we're going to find the ways and be in compliance with the law. I'm excited by that. Yeah, so a lot of sawdust around the actual hot dog there of compliance with the law, which, by implication, you have not been up to this point. You don't want to admit to that. You don't want to give the Trump administration, particularly, any kind of win by conceding. Okay. Students and local organizations that support diverse scholars are pushing back, raising concerns about what they consider to be DU signaling a waning conditional support for black and brown students who have historically faced more obstacles to obtaining college degrees. Yeah, historically, like, okay. When does the racism stop? Okay, even the benevolent racism. When does the benevolent racism stop? When does what the civil rights movement fought for actually kick in? You know, it's the same thing with affirmative action. It went on at least 30 years more than it should have. Benevolent racism, taking pity on people because of what they look like. And I've talked long before, and lots before, about my opinion on affirmative action. There was a time for it. There was a probationary period after 1964 that made sense to me on a moral level. But at a certain point, you got to draw the line and say, we're going to treat everyone fairly now, regardless of what they look like. You can't just constantly go out to dinner on your skin color because of things that happen to people who you never knew in decades in which you never lived in. Students and local organizations that support... Oh, I read this, pardon me. Quote, it's just really horrible to see, said Cameron Gunter, a 21-year-old DU physics and math major and president of the campus's Black Student Alliance. Okay, so a racially segregated organization, fine. Hefner announced the changes in a letter to the private liberal arts college's community last month, writing that DU was eliminating, number one, scholarships, internships, mentorships, or leadership programs intended for a specific racial group or that target underserved geographic areas. Well, it's that racial part that's the most important for Title VI. Number two, prompts on student or employee applications asking applicants to describe overcoming an obstacle or provide a diversity statement. Yeah, please volunteer information to us that we can't ask you directly about your race and or your orientation, that we can just accidentally make use of in our assessment of your opportunities. This is the same thing that happened with Hive diversity, right? They tempt fate by having anything on their applications or their procedures that directly ask you about your race or your orientation or something, because that in and of itself may indicate some kind of discrimination. So they just leave you an open space of text to please describe any problems you've had in life because of your background or your diversity in ambiguous terms. Yeah, because if you volunteer that information, well, then potential employers, look what they said about their personal experience of hardship. Oh, okay. Number 3, spaces designated for specific groups, demographics, such as a study area for students of color. Segregation in schools is great. Even if the spaces are open to all. Well, if they're open to all, then why is it designated for specific groups? Which is it? It's like employee resource groups. Oh yeah, I mean the Asian Pacific employee resource group. It's there for our Asian Pacific employees, but I mean anybody can join if they want to. And lastly, DEI training. In the letter, Hefner wrote that he was deeply disappointed by the U.S. Department of Justice's interpretation of the law surrounding DEI and its potential consequences. Interpretation. It's not Egyptian hieroglyphs. It's the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It's been there a while. It was debated before its creation. It's been debated many times after its creation. It's not a mystery. And as soon as you accepted taxpayer dollars for your institution, you accepted the restrictions thereof. Stop whining. Still, he said, he does not believe the university will lose students of color. And see, you keep revealing your own concerns without even realizing it, don't you? What's your main focus? What's your main priority? Aesthetics. DU has not been explicitly called out by the Trump administration for its DEI initiatives, Hefner told the Post last week. Okay, so Denver's just being proactive. But the risk analysis was too great for him to ignore. Yeah, all of a sudden, the laws are starting to be enforced. I guess, guys, the jig is up. Around 80% of DU's $52 million in research expenditures was federally funded in 2024. I'm going to read that again. Around 80% of Denver University's $52 million in research expenditures was federally funded in 2024. That's why. That's why. Because Title VI is going to come crashing down on their heads. Not only because it should have already, but certainly in the absence of affirmative action, they have no escape now. Or ideally, they should have no escape. I'm glad that they're being proactive about it. I'm glad that they're scared into doing it. I'm glad that it wasn't the Trump administration sending a note to them or something. That's good news. That is good news. The rollbacks take effect this academic year. Any student currently receiving race-based scholarships will receive their promised dollars, Hefner said. Yeah, okay. If you say so. Discrimination against minorities. I feel like I need to read that Thomas Sowell quote again. But Gunter, the Black Student Alliance president, said she wants to leave the university after hearing the news. Oh. I can't have my racially segregated private club anymore. The Cultural Center on campus, a hub for diverse students, has already experienced downsizing, she said, and now its future feels uncertain. Gunter said the center informed the BSA that its annual Welcome Back cookout was no longer allowed under the DEI rollbacks. Probably because it was racially segregated, wasn't it? Can you imagine if this was like, I don't know, back in like, say, 1965, and you get some college where you have like the, the Old Southern Democrats Club on campus. Whites only. And they're told like, hey, you can't do that anymore. I'm being persecuted. Let's see. Gunter said she felt particularly disheartened after meeting with the chancellor in the spring, pleading with him to provide more support to students of color on campus. She said he reassured her the university was committed to diversity. resources specifically for black students bolstered Gunter, who said an overwhelmingly white campus like DU could be isolating for students who are often the only black person in a room. It doesn't make you a better person to be racist for the minority. I don't know what to tell you. That's not how this is supposed to work. You hate white people. That doesn't make you good. In the coming weeks, Hefner said the university will launch new initiatives to ensure all students on campus feel welcomed and supported. Quote, I know this is really hard and hit a lot of our communities hard, Hefner said. Quote, what I would be proud of about our university is if every student, every faculty member, every staff, even every alum were to take a step back and say, you know, the changes that happened at DU were good for me because I truly felt like I was welcomed. I truly felt like I belonged in some sense, and when there were times I struggled, I had support and people to talk with and really feel like they cared for me. Yeah, but what if they don't look like me? Then how can I feel safe? I'm sorry, Chancellor Hefner. I'm sorry. If I don't surround myself with people with my skin color, I just don't feel comfortable. And you need to fix that. It's just I'm going to leave unless you make sure that I have college financial support in making my racially segregated clubs. I'm going to take my ball and go home. Poor Denver students. Poor Denver students. Blue-eyed screams. So you need more money for being the only black person in a room? Apparently so. Apparently so. Yeah, I don't feel comfortable around all these crackers. Give me money. You know. Well, you know, if you feel that you know, passionately about it, we do have these historically black colleges and universities over here you can attend, you know, because making racially segregated schools is now the new black, I guess, or something. Anyway, let's take a look at the article that Kirill Soldier gave us. Disney's bold move, casting black actresses for Elsa and Anna in Frozen live action, sparks fan concerns. Wow, Disney hasn't learned anything, have they? In a groundbreaking yet divisive announcement, Disney revealed on August 15th, 2015, that it is actively seeking black actresses to star as Elsa and Anna in its upcoming live-action adaptation of Frozen, slated for release in November of 2027. Really? Even after Little Mermaid, all that controversy, even after Snow White? They're going to take a story that is, I mean, to say that Frozen is Nordic in setting and tone, I think would be putting it mildly. But, okay. The decision, unveiled at D23 Expo panel in Anaheim, California, marks a significant departure from the animated originals, but not a significant departure from the live-action adaptations, where the sisters of Arendelle were depicted as white, fair-haired royals in a Scandinavian-inspired kingdom. Let's see. With Frozen and Frozen 2 collectively grossing over $2.7 billion worldwide, the franchise is a cornerstone of Disney's empire, making this casting choice a high-stakes gamble. Another high-stakes gamble. Again, let's go back to Little Mermaid. Let's go back to Snow White. While Disney touts the move as a step towards inclusivity, of course, fans have flooded platforms like X with reactions ranging from cautious optimism to outright worry, fearing the change could alter the essence of their beloved tale. Well, shut up, you racists. As the studio navigates this bold reinvention, the Frozen live-action film is shaping up to be one of Hollywood's most debated projects. Okay, well, if this is true, if somebody in the Disney machinery has decided to do this, yeah. First off, why bother? Just make another animated Frozen film and rake in the money. Why bother going through all the strains and pains of doing a live-action film of Frozen? Hell, we've seen this now, and we talked about this on Midnight's Edge more than a few times. Just re-release the original to theaters for a couple of weeks, and you'll rake in the bucks. What is the point? Let's see. Okay. I don't want to go into all... Oh, good gravy. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this. Sorry, Kiro Soldier. I'll read a little bit more, but this goes into, like, history lesson on Frozen, which I don't particularly need. Thank you so much, Sinicki. Elsa and Anna's full brother is Tarzan. I heard that. I heard that is buried in the lore, that they have a connection between Tarzan's parents and the ship that he was on and all that. I've seen a couple of videos connecting some of the Disney lore together, especially the Pixar lore. How, what's her name from Monsters, Inc. is the old lady and Brave or whatever. Yeah. I love little things like that, where they're like, they're kind of hidden, they're not necessary for the story, but they kind of make those little connections. I like that kind of stuff. So yes, Tarzan, the Nordic guy. And when I think of Tarzan, I don't really think Nordic, but then maybe it's just the environment in which he grew up in. Thank you so much, Sinicki. The Frozen phenomenon, a global sensation. To grasp the weight of Disney's decision... Well, the only weight I need to know is how much money do they plan to burn on this project? Like, what budget are they putting on this thing? And then how much do they actually spend on it? One must first understand Frozen's cultural impact, inspired by Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen. The 2013 animated film, directed by Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee, introduced Elsa, voiced by Idina Menzel, the original witch in Wicked, a magical queen with ice powers, and her spirited sister Anna, Kirsten Bell, princesses of the fictional kingdom of Arendelle. The story of sisterhood, self-discovery, and defying societal norms resonated deeply, propelled by iconic songs like Let It Go. The film earned $1.28 billion globally and 2 Oscars, while Frozen 2 added $1.45 billion and explored themes of identity and reconciliation with indigenous cultures. The franchise has since expanded into Broadway musicals, theme park attractions, and a global fan base that spans generations. So let's screw that all up. Let's screw that all up to stand on a box of virtue. The live-action adaptation, announced in November 2023 by Disney CEO Bob Iger alongside Frozen 3 and 4, aims to reimagine the original story for a new audience. No. Reimagine. Oh, God. Directed by Emerald Fennell, known for Promising Young Woman. Why does that name sound familiar? The film promises a visually stunning take on Arendelle, blending practical sets in Norway with industrial light and magic CGI for Elsa's ice powers. With a reported $200 million budget, and you can bet your bippy it's going to be at least 50 to 75 more than that, the project is a priority for Disney, which has seen success with live-action remakes like The Lion King. Well, the first one, how'd the second one do? How did the whole second one do? But faced criticism for others, such as Mulan, 2020. Well, that's because Mulan, the live-action movie, sucked. You want to talk about the criticism of race-bending casting choices? The casting call for black actresses to play Elsa and Anna, however, has thrust the film into uncharted territory. Uncharted... Shut up. Okay. I'm done with this article. Whoever's writing this is acting like an idiot. I'm not going to do it. That's a lot to go through. Thank you, Kiro Soldier, though. So, if that story is accurate, Disney has learned none of its previous lessons. Yeah, $200 million. Yeah, that will be the stated budget, the actual cost if they go through with the thing. $250, $275. With reshoots, probably $285. Frosted Glass, thanks so much. Let it go, let it go. Smoke detector chirp. Oh. Ooh. Thank you, Frosted Glass. Moving on, what else do I have here? Oh yes, Harvard. I mentioned Harvard in the thumbnail. Let's talk about Harvard. This is from the Harvard Crimson, its own little newspaper, guys. Editorial, DEI may have failed at Harvard, so will the rebrand. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Harvard has outsourced diversity to the thesaurus. To the thesaurus? To the thesaurus. To the thesaurus. This summer, Harvard College swapped the language of diversity, equity, and inclusion for the language of, quote-unquote, culture and community, unquote, closing the Harvard College Women's Center and BGLTQ spaces. BGLTQ. How many different arrangements of letters am I going to have to get used to at this point? BGLTQ. Okay. Only vaguely promising to keep services unchanged. DEI might have failed at Harvard, but without increased transparency, the cautiously worded rebrand will suffer a similar fate. One can only hope. Because, again, if you're just putting up a Potemkin village of compliance with the law, I would hope that that does not last. We understand the old project of diversity, DEI as practiced here, to have often been performative and corporate. Maybe, but the results were still unfair and illegal. Like a suspiciously pluralistic brochure, it's sometimes capitalized on the identities of Harvard affiliates, making diversity something to display rather than embody. It's the same thing, because it's all about the aesthetic. Embody? Okay, well then you, dear author, are going to have to explain to me what that means. What does embody contrast with display? How does that work? If it's not just about the look of the campus and the demographic split, then tell me, what does embodiment look like? Nonetheless, Harvard's former DEI offices offered real resources. Oh no, I'm sure they offered real resources. They spent real money on people really because of what they looked like. I don't think it was the ether or something. The Office for BGLTQ Student Life previously provided information for relevant students regarding how to operate Harvard's housing system or receive certain forms of health care. Certain forms of health care? Like what forms of health care? It doesn't say here, not yet anyway. I have a sneaking suspicion that certain forms of health care, which you're being very obtuse about, might be like, I don't know, hormone replacement therapy, or maybe surgical procedures to change genders. What are you talking about? Are you being transparent? Anyway, the first-year retreat and experience seeks to provide stable footing for first-generation and low-income students. Okay, what's that got to do with someone's race or orientation? Harvard's previous DEI network was probably imperfect. But it was clear that resources were manifold and accessible, and they were likely a boon to underrepresented students from those backgrounds. So you're just talking about students who particularly like to sleep with certain people. Okay, why do they get special treatment again? I mean, you seem to think, and I'm talking obviously rhetorically to the author here, you seem to think that just because you fall within one of the alphabet soup that somehow that makes you a special person all of a sudden? Why? It's not like someone's in a wheelchair and they need a ramp and they actually need specific extra access, or a unavoidable pragmatic preference. But okay. Now the rage at the college is viewpoint diversity. What? Diversity of thought? Exemplified in its intellectual vitality initiative. Intellectual Vitality Initiative and DEI rebrand. We agree with the premise. The academic mission requires engaging with diverse perspectives. But as Harvard's institutional emphasis on diversity shifts to the intellectual, students from backgrounds affected by the DEI purge may find themselves unsupported. Why? Because they can't keep up intellectually? What are you saying? On these terms, the new project is failing. How? How is it failing? Give me some evidence. What are you talking about? The non-straight students are no longer getting completely unnecessary preferential treatment. Okay, now they're focusing on, heaven forfend at a college, intellectual excellence, and now you think that they won't be able to keep up. Why? On these terms, the new project is failing. The Harvard Foundation, the new destination for many previous DEI office staffers, describes its programming in the language of viewpoint diversity rather than identity, hoping to, quote, encourage dialogue across difference, unquote, and, quote, facilitate peer-to-peer learning, unquote. Such language suggests a function distinct from previous DEI offices. Yes, it does suggest, right? Because it's focusing on someone's thoughts and ideas and their intellectual acumen and nothing to do with the aesthetic. I know, it's a crazy idea. If someone says something, if they provide an idea or speak something, it operates separate from what they look like if it's a good idea, right? It resounds around all sorts of thoughts. You know, like if I say the sky is blue, most people be like, oh, you're right. But in many worlds right now, if Donald Trump says the sky is blue, everyone's going to want a reference point. Right? Without further clarity on function or an explanation of how former services would be affected by the foundation's supposed beneficiaries, your past special treatments are gone, is the ideal situation. I'm sorry to tell you this. You were getting special treatment. You were being given preferential treatment outside the law and outside of fairness. And now it's being taken away. And all of a sudden, you feel like you're being oppressed. But you're not. You're actually having to compete on the same level everybody else should have to compete at an institute of education. It is your mind, your intellect, your scholarship, who you like to sleep with, your particular skin color is not a free pass anymore. That is the idea. That was the idea back in 1964. Jesus. What are we talking about here? It's like somebody suddenly realizing, you mean I'm not special anymore? What will the foundation actually do? Well, I think it was right there. The Intellectual Vitality Initiative. Okay, by collapsing identity-specific offices into an opaque umbrella organization and shuttering dedicated spaces, you mean segregated spaces, the university has traded targeted capacity for vague promise. You have enjoyed an assurance of outcome for so long. This entire article is the Thomas Sowell quote in Live Action, guys. We're not talking about Frozen now. No. When people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like discrimination. Our author is a walking example of this. As students contend with the new system, they may face delays or lack of resources and dead URLs. Oh man, I tell you, I just have too many horror stories of dead URLs. Students who have specific needs once equally specific... Wait, what? Students who have specific needs once had equally specific staffed offices and designated proctors. No longer. Yeah, and what were they specific of? Right? Their race, who they like to sleep with, or their obsession with getting their bodies modified. Oh no. Now, tell me of all those things, what does any of that have to do with your academic career? You're looking for a home. You're looking for a mommy. You're looking for a safety blanket. It's college. Grow up. The harm is not evenly distributed. Oh no, I'm sure. The harm, I'm sure, is not. You know what? Again, We're talking about leveling the playing field. And so when you have a whole bunch of people who were given special treatment before and suddenly they're brought back down to the level of everybody else, I bet it really seems like it's not equally distributed. It's not. For some first generation and low income students, what's that got to do with anything? LGBTQ students, women, and students of color, identity support is a precondition for the fullest campus experience. Wait a second. Show me where, quote unquote, first generation and low income students, full stop, are being harmed by this. Show me where. What program specifically for low income students is being harmed? And as far as like first generation, I've never really understood what that designation is supposed to mean. Okay, like you're the first person in your family to go to college. Great. So what? If it's just about a financial backing. That's the only thing I can ever think of, is that somehow, like, I mean, my parents attended college. I didn't end up with some kind of special one-up or whatever when I went to college, because they went to college in one state and then I went to college in a different state. So I was not a first-generation college student. But having not been a first-generation college student, I didn't feel like I was being given some special treatment or something. They need to, like, clarify that for a bit more, because I've never understood what that's supposed to mean in the grand scheme of things. If we're talking like, oh, you know, well, my father went to this college at Harvard, and then there's a whole building named after our family. So that kind of thing, I could see that, maybe. But what is first generation supposed to mean? How is that an inherent disability for anybody? The university might argue that resources still exist somewhere, lost amidst the alphabet soup. You're going to complain about alphabet soup? Really? That misses the point. Access requires legibility. Names, rooms, pages, and people that students can actually find. You know, you might have to do your own research. Worse, the new diversity picks winners. Okay, veterans and FGLI students remain clearly centered. FGLI? What's FGLI? I gotta look all this crazy stuff up. FGLI. What kind of web page is this going to bring up? Oh, first generation low income. Okay. Yeah, because you know why? In the first instance, that is a marker of someone's personal merit. They did something. They sacrificed something and actually deserve special consideration. And first generation low income, well, whatever first generation is supposed to mean in the grand scheme of things, either way, it's got nothing to do with what you look like. It sounds like it has everything to do with class. And class is something that you should take into account if someone has the grades to compete. You're whining that you're not getting special treatment anymore because of your race or your orientation. That's it. Elements of your makeup which say absolutely nothing about your character or abilities. Veterans and first-generation low-income students remain clearly centered with visible structures and staff. Support, we applaud. Do you, though? It sounds like a golf clap with a wince. While race, gender, and sexuality barely appear on the Office of Culture and Community's website. Well, golly gee whiz, I can't possibly imagine why a school accepting federal funding might start straying away from pointing out people's differences and the benefits thereof financially. I can't think of a reason why that might be the case at all. Can you guys think of any reasons? I can't think of any reasons. This person really goes to Harvard. The Crimson Editorial Board. Okay, so the editorial board of the newspaper for one of, at least by name and purported reputation, the most prestigious colleges in the United States is dumbfounded by what's going on. Can't seem to figure it out. I think they just proved their own point there. Good gravy. Morgan King, hello everyone, and Scribelight. Oh, I'm not everyone? I'm everyone. It's all in me. Not quite. Let's see. I've got one more story here I wanted to get to. It has been the case over the course of my channel's history that I've covered DEI in medicine many, many, many times. A lot of claims about, racial disparities in medical outcomes and so on and so forth. But really, the scary stuff was always in the education side of things. Because if you have DEI practices in who you're putting up to be doctors, you're putting people into positions of authority and giving them diplomas and certifications because you feel sorry for them in some institutional way rather than they've earned it because they have some excellence in medicine, you may be creating the very problem you're saying you're trying to avoid. Well, things may be changing, thankfully. Medical training accreditor ends DEI policies, closes department. The group that accredits graduate-level medical training programs across the U.S. has closed its Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office and ended its DEI mandates. In an internal email to partners obtained by Do No Harm and shared with the Center Square, the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education said recent executive orders from President Donald Trump prompted the change in policy. Again, not because it was always legally questionable, but Donald Trump. Well, I'll take any excuse to do the right thing, I guess. Quote, for nearly half a century, the Accreditation Council for Graduate Medical Education, or ACGME, has upheld its mission to ensure high-quality education and training for resident and fellow physicians across the U.S. by implementing and evaluating compliance with peer-reviewed standards. The email said, quote, our commitment to advancing excellence in medical education and training remains steadfast, and as we adapt to evolving national priorities. Yeah, the evolving national priorities of 1964. Quote, recent federal directives, including executive orders and a proposed rule from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, have prohibited accrediting bodies from requiring or otherwise encouraging a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Good. In alignment with these federal directives, the ACGME has taken several actions, including retiring DEI-specific accreditation requirements, updating the organization's relevant policies and procedures, and closing the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, unquote. That includes taking down its diversity webpage. Oh, no. In response, Do No Harm, an organization of, quote, physicians, nurses, medical students, patients, and policymakers focused on keeping identity politics out of medical education, research, and clinical practice, unquote, said identity politics don't belong in healthcare. Well, I would love to hear the people that say otherwise. Quote, for too long, accreditors like ACGME have gotten away with injecting identity politics into medical education. Now that they're finally removing DEI mandates, after much scrutiny and pressure, the ACGME is taking an important step toward realigning its standards with common sense, meritocratic metrics. Meritocratic metrics, unquote. Stanley Goldfarb, MD, chairman of Do No Harm, said in a statement, quote, that's why it's so important that organizations like ours, along with elected officials and all medical professionals, continue speaking out and holding these institutions accountable for racialized standards and quotas in medicine, unquote. A to the men. It's so nice to see things changing in places. Even if they have to sort of unwillingly, grudgingly have to limp on, oh, we gotta get rid of our DEI stuff. But it's even more disheartening and incredible, honestly, when I read things from like the Harvard Crimson and everything. We have somebody who, like, if you just stop for a second and think about what is it that you're saying? What is it that you're complaining about? Do you have any understanding of history or the mechanisms that you are yearning for in comparison to the past? You talk about, I'm generalizing here quite a bit, but people who support this stuff talk about historical inequities. You know, they don't seem to understand the baseboard elements of those historical inequities. This is one of the things that's baffled me for the, run of my channel, in this particular subject at least. And even when faced with the obvious comparison to what was going on in the past versus now, when suddenly it's brought to their attention that, oh yeah, we have been getting special treatment this whole time, now it's like, oh, we have to think on our feet. We have to actually earn our way through school, through intellect and study and scholarship. But I had my private club where I had all the right-looking people. Wheezy McBluntblowin, did he do Kiro's article or nah? I did. I did. I appreciate your concern. Pip Bin, just caught your stream. Thanks as always, Scribe. Be right back to the start for me. Oh, well then, when you get back to this point, hello from the future. Or the past. Something like that. It seems like they're just 2 steps away. We saw in 2 articles today where the authors were just 2 steps away from having to admit that they were on the wrong side of this whole thing, having to come to the revelation that, oh yeah, I guess we have been getting unfair treatment. Oh boy, we're the racists now, aren't we? And yet they just can't get over that line, because to do so would be to invalidate everything that they've based their entire personal identity around. And that's a hard thing to do for anybody. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It's not easy having to admit that you've been supporting the wrong team and made yourself part of that team for a long time. But whether or not you're going to admit it to yourself, thankfully, to some extent, long past reality is finally starting to catch up. It's 1964 all over again, guys. And we're just watching it all come about. But anyway, that will be the show for today. Just a programming note. I will not, I say, be on Midnight's Edge in the morning tomorrow morning. Unfortunately, I had a business meeting that was rescheduled to cover exactly that period of time of the morning, so I won't be there tomorrow. I will be here for Thursday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for TED Excellence, where I'll go over another off-brand TED Talk for education and enlightenment. Also, I will be there for the Friday episode of Midnight's Edge in the morning. However, there is something I have to reveal, if you didn't already know. For those of you that follow Midnight's Edge in the morning, you might already know this. Starting next week, Midnight's Edge in the morning is going to be moving their time slot 2 hours back. So instead of starting at 9 a.m. my time, they'll be starting at 7 a.m. my time. And that, unfortunately, is smack dab in the middle of my workday. So, more likely than not, at least for the foreseeable future, I will have to bow out of attendance to Midnight's Edge in the morning. And it's sad, but, it's the realities of the market, as it were. Midnight's Edge is trying to make sure they stay competitive with all the other similar like-minded channels out there and live shows. So that's just the way it is. Some things will never change. That's just the way it is. But as I'm able on any particular day that I can, I'll try to pop in maybe a little late. Maybe if I get a day off or something. But that will be a change starting next week for my broadcast schedule. What will I do with my new time on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays? I don't know. Maybe something, maybe nothing. I'll let you guys know as things develop. But anyway, would you like to join my Discord server? Because I've been... Whoa! No, that's not what I... Wait, give me the Discord link. That was me looking up first generation low income. I'm glad I didn't put something else in there. Good gravy. I told you to give me a link. Copy the link. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. There's the link to the Discord server, not the first generation low income acronym. If you'd like to join the Discord server, click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is FGLI. Just type in hello FGLI and I'll know for sure that you watched the show. Otherwise, everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, link at the top of the chat box, guys. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciate it. If you would also leave a like on your way out and or a comment if you have something to say. And of course, if you have articles to suggest for the show, you can always drop them over in the Discord. I obviously was remiss in seeing it today before the show started for Kiro Soldier's article, but I'll try to be more vigilant in the future. Everyone, have a good rest of your Tuesday. Hope the rest of your week goes well, and when you get there, the weekend as well. And I hope you're all safe and well, and if you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.